And with that, we are live, folks. Welcome back, Dork Discourse. We took a 2-week hiatus. Sorry, everybody, and we didn't even really share what we were doing. Apologies, friends. But we are fresh. We are back. We're crawling back today because it is Acolyte era, and Tom has literally just finished watching the trailer. Finally, he walked right in just in time. I told him to watch it real quick so that we could jump right into it today, folks. But yes, as I was saying in the chat, welcome. Thank you guys so much for being here, especially since we did take a little bit of a unplanned, I mean, it was planned, but I never actually announced that we were taking a break, so it probably came across as unplanned. Thank you guys for reaching out. Sean, shout out to you who Sean reached out, making sure that we were still okay. Thank you, Sean. Yes,
you have to take advantage of your community section and just make a post.
I know. I just get scared, and so I'd rather just say nothing.
You just get
and
scared.
Be mysterious. Anyway, hello friends. Stanley's Sean, Lord Fal. I believe it's all Charlie. Let's go, Sal. Sorry, I just stifled a cough real quick. Early gang. Stanley's visitor Zeta. Dan the Man, let's go. And I believe I saw from Joshua earlier, a member for 30 months on the master level. Let's go. Welcome back, Kat. I hope you had fun on your vacation. Really enjoyed the trailer. Very excited for Acolyte. Can't make it to the stream tonight, but have a great time, and I will catch it later. Josh, sorry that you're not here. Thank you. I'll see you in the rewatch if you're rewatching this.
Oh.
Hello to you, my friend. Sorry we couldn't catch you live. But appreciate it, and thank you so much for your support as always, member for 30 freaking months. Let's go. We have so much exciting stuff in store, folks. I will disclaim right now, because Tom and I, yes, I mentioned in my Acolyte reaction, we went on a vacation. We've been out and about, we've been busy, we've had a lot of life going on, and so neither of us have actually caught up on the last three episodes of The Bad Batch. Am I correct? Were there two episodes released last week for some reason? Correct me if I'm wrong, for those of you who know. I feel like I saw on Twitter that for some reason 2 episodes were dropping. So that would put us behind 3. So neither of us have caught up. And so we won't be discussing any Bad Batch leading up to the Bad Batch tonight. And so tonight's we're just gonna be, it was perfect timing. It's Tuesday. We got an Acolyte trailer. We're coming back with Dork Discourse first episode this month, actually, which is actually a crazy thought. Technically, this is our first episode of the month. Holy smokes, wild. Sorry, guys. It's been a little drought for March here, but I hope you guys are doing well. And we're going to get right into it. So, Tom... Oh, and I'm also behind on Shogun. I gotta catch up. I'm tempted to start doing Shogun reactions, y'all. Let me know if I should. Anyway, all right. So, fresh reaction.
You got some work to do before that.
I know. I'm so backlogged.
Dear.
I'm so backlogged. I was also a little burnt out. Okay, I was doing in the midst of Legend of Korra. We were doing Avatar. We were doing Bad Batch. I think Avatar is what set me back because I am not used to being able to watch everything in its entirety and having the pressure to try to watch it all within a certain time frame and then try to edit everything simultaneously and then try to edit quickly to clear up some storage space so that I could keep watching, keep reacting. So it was just kind of, I might never react to anything on Netflix again, or at least not all at once, because it was quite a lot, and I think that led to some burnout and backlog. My latest episode reaction, we left off on Avatar live action episode 4. That just got uploaded this evening, probably gonna post it tomorrow, and hopefully get back on track. So thank goodness the Bad Batch episodes are only 25 minutes. That's at least a relief. Makes things easier. So yes, all right, without further ado, without further disclaimers, all the pleasantries aside, Tom has just finished watching the trailer. So what do you think?
I think it's funny how you say, let's get right into it, and then you have a 7-minute monologue explaining yourself of...
Well, we did dip off the channel for a while. I know it's bad to the point when I have people reaching out to make sure I'm still okay. So, apologies.
Yeah. Anyway, yes. Just watched the trailer. And honestly,
that's okay. That's how other people feel.
I think it's standard Star Wars trailer where they don't give us plot to a fault. There's a lot of cool shots, a lot of cool visuals. I like the monologue in the beginning of, the Squid Game Jedi talking to the younglings there, and they were having their little meditation session. Like, a lot of cool stuff, but we don't know anything. Like, nothing. Even to the point where, like, as Star Wars sweat lords, like, we are here, all of us mutually in the chat, and the two of us in the room here. Like, I feel like, yeah, we see a lot of familiar things, but like we don't have any idea really of what the story is. And I think what the upside of that is that they could have some crazy surprises and really cool stuff that they don't want to show us yet. The downside is that that's going to heighten our expectations, anticipating some huge shock, some huge thing, and if it inevitably doesn't come, or what they think is a huge shock really isn't, then it's naturally going to let us down. So I think that to your point of Star Wars marketing that you talk about often, I think this is a pure example of withholding too much information in the trailer. Granted, this is the first one, excluding the Celebration trailer that was shown to the people at Celebration last year. But like, we don't really know anything. Literally know nothing. We know that the main character slash antagonist, I mean, the trailer ends with that shot of her Hulk smashing with the Force and throwing all of them back, which is cool. It was a cool shot, but
Sean,
we don't know.
Sean is correct. They did release a synopsis, which I was surprised they didn't have that in the description of their trailer on YouTube. I feel like that would have been an appropriate place to put it, but according to Wikipedia, a former Padawan reunites with her Jedi Master to investigate a series of crimes, but the forces they confront are more sinister than they ever anticipated. So that is the synopsis. I do agree, though, and one thing I was, kind of banking on with this trailer, my excitement for the show is, one, I've just been my curiosity was piqued the second they announced this was going to be taking place in uncharted territory, a different timeline that we're not privy to, at least in the film and television canon of Star Wars. I do know that this takes place at I believe, the tail end of the High Republic era. I've not actually read any of those books, so it's not like it's an uncharted time period entirely for Star Wars. If you've read the books, I'm sure you'll have more to go off of. However, I do think they could have been more clear, because I think one thing I'm excited about with the show that I think a lot of the strength is rooted in is that, and I stated this in my reaction, current Star Wars shows as we know them are very codependent on each other now. It's kind of like an infinity cycle that feeds itself. So you have to watch Clone Wars now and able to be ordered to enjoy Mando in its entirety. You have to watch Rebels in order to enjoy Ahsoka. You don't have to. There's certainly no rules. And you can go in, but I think your enjoyment of the show is very much influenced if you've watched all these others.
Of lore
but
and world building.
What I'm saying is,
you don't have to watch it, but if you want to get the full experience, then it's in your best interest to watch it.
Yeah, it's in your best interest. But what I'm saying is that's not a bad thing. I'm not implying or critiquing that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying, as a fact, that's the state of Star Wars right now. And one thing that I think a reason Mandalorian it constantly outperforms is because, yes, it does draw from, I'd say it's the least dependent on those external shows. It does draw from Clone Wars, of course, but not to the point where, like, Ahsoka is very much more dependent on Rebels. And I think Mandalorian is very constantly well performing because it was a new show, a little bit of a new timeline, still familiarity and whatnot, but still kind of like untapped material. So that's where I think the strength of Acolyte lies. But I think they needed to be a little bit more specific, because a generic, I don't like to use the word generic, but as you put it, non-sweats, casual Star Wars fans who maybe are seeing this trailer, this is some familiar stuff, and it's kind of fair game. It's like fair game for everybody, a clean slate. Yes, if you can read the High Republic novels if you want, but it's not like, oh my god, I have to watch 1,000 episodes of Clone Wars and then Rebels and then this. It's clean slate, fair game for everyone. And so I do think, though, they could have at least stated something like 100 years before the Phantom Menace or something like that.
There's no context.
Indication, yeah.
Like this arguably is just after watching it one time, the least enticing trailer
What?
that they've released. If you're like, I don't think that grabs any. Like, no one is gonna I think go looking for the trailer. But if you're not avidly following Star Wars and you're not a Star Wars fan like that, I don't think that that's gonna like say, oh wow, I need to go watch Star Wars or get into Star Wars because that is so enticing and I want to know what happened. Like we had this discussion on Dork Discourse a few months ago where like if you have lightsabers, you have a whole fan base around Star Wars who's going to watch this no matter what, even if they never released a trailer, even if they never did any marketing, they just dropped, hey, here's this thing on Disney Plus we just threw on there with no heads up whatsoever. There's going to be a massive audience that goes and watches it, which is us, which is probably everybody here watching right now. But if you want to get the new audience, if you want to grow, ultimately it comes down to story. Right? Like, think about people who say, oh, Star Wars isn't for me. I don't want to get into Star Wars, blah, blah, blah. What are the stereotypes? Just like, ships and lightsabers and like aliens and yada, yada. But what makes Star Wars so special is ultimately the story. And all these trailers that they release really don't have anything to do with story. It's just all visuals. And in this case, like you said, there's no even context of where this takes place. This could very well take place during the Clone Wars.
I do feel like they really could have benefited from just even a little title slide, like 100 years before Phantom Menace, because there's no other indicators to place where this is in the timeline. So somebody who would see those lightsabers and is like, oh, I only like Star Wars when it's Jedi and go to see the movies, which again, I don't want it to sound like when we describe fans like that we're looking down upon them, because I feel like that's a vast majority of what the Star Wars fan base really is. It's people who just want to go see the movies and see Jedi and lightsabers, which is freaking nothing wrong with that. Those are like the best parts of Star Wars.
And when you attach that with a good story, it's the greatest thing on the planet.
Yes. So I can see people though interested in those things looking at that trailer and racking their brain like, what did I miss? When does this take place? Who are all these people? Because that's the other thing. There's no familiarity other than the Jedi, of course, but there's no familiar characters. Lots of new aliens, lots of new faces going on. So I feel like they could have just remedied that with at least that, or at least some indication of the timeline. Sorry, I think there was a member message from Charlie earlier back. There was member for 30 months as well. Master level, let's go. Frick yeah, Charlie. Another milestone. Thanks for everything, Cat and Tom. Heads up, got a new saber flip. Like the dark saber, got a Star Wars Visions saber. Oh my gosh. And yes, Shogun is amazing. Yes, I saw some mixed comments about Shogun. Sal saying that it's incredible. Dan saying he gave up after episode 1. That's fair. That is totally fair. It's definitely, I'm very behind still. I've only seen the first 2 episodes. So yeah, Tom's right. Perhaps I shouldn't saddle myself with reacting to it, but I've enjoyed what I've seen so far. I know that it's performing very, very well. Yeah. And so I'm definitely going to continue watching. But yes, thank you, Charlie. Thank you as always. And also just shout out to Charlie for always moderating the comment sections and whatnot. That's another thing here about Acolyte. I think it's been pretty tame. My hidden comments section hasn't been too nasty yet, but that's one thing I'm a little bit disheartened about. People are writing this show off already when it's like, I don't not that I agree, but I don't disagree, nor do I blame you for thinking that was maybe just more of a tame trailer. Because yes, it is incredibly vague in typical fashion with Star Wars trailers, and I do think you can get away with that more when you are relying on familiar faces like Shogun, Ahsoka, or Book of Boba Fett, because it's just like, yeah, I'll watch regardless. However, for something like this, I don't disagree that it could have benefited from at least establishing a little bit more of a storyline, solidifying where it is in the timeline. But in typical fashion with Star Wars marketing, that's not the case. I am curious if we will get another trailer, because this wasn't even, maybe it's because they released a tease at Celebration like this time last year, essentially,
No.
that this wasn't just a first teaser, like this was a first full-fledged trailer. So
Mhm.
I'm curious what more we'll get going forward to build on top of this, if anything. But that's one thing. I think people are writing this show off already when I don't think by any means this was a bad trailer. Yes, I don't disagree that they could have revealed more, but I don't think it was bad. And it's just, I have faith that the show is going to be really good, and all those people are going to be regretting it.
Yeah.
Just my
I think
2 cents.
I think why I'm a little thrown off right now is that the whole story around the show has been following a dark side user, right? Like following someone who has fallen to the dark side, what that path looks like. Versus this entire trailer was told from the point of view of a Jedi. So is the main character this Jedi, or is the main character the evil person? Because if it's not the evil person,
You know who the evil person is, correct? Rue from
yeah.
Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Here,
so if it's not
hold up.
grown up Sith braided Rue, then
It is #1 on trending. Okay, I did not know that. Good for this.
yeah, I mean when I watched it, it had like 3-something million views, I think.
Solid.
So I'm in my mind right now, it's a little contradictory. Like if this show is really going to be following a dark side user, why not have the trailer show that dark side user doing dark side things to set the tone for what it's going to be? And maybe that's just me misunderstanding what the show is supposed to be about, but I've been under the impression this whole time that it's following the dark side person.
Yeah, the acolytes, like the Sith. I don't know.
Yeah.
Perhaps
Yes.
it could be like a misdirect.
This is the initial trailer. You can't be misdirecting.
Yeah, I don't
you have
know.
to set the tone. And if this is going to be following the dark side Rue, I don't think it sets the tone when they would have the opportunity. Like, if you're going to, let's say they do create like an R-rated Darth Vader trailer or show, right? Or movie,
What?
whatever. And it's this super dark side centric, like evil themes, and that's the tone of the show. But the trailer comes out and it's giving some like senator's perspective of what's going on, and then just like glimpses of Vader and dark side action. Like that's what I'm getting from here. It's like saying, yes, there's this evil threat out there. Here's cool shots of that person doing some evil stuff. But if the show's going to follow that person and there's going to be true darker tones here, I feel like it is kind of a misdirect to a fault of not showing that in the trailer. But I don't know. People can correct me if I'm spewing lies because I don't understand what the show is about. And maybe I'm just misremembering.
I'm curious because we see clips here. I should know his name. I'm really ashamed that I don't know his name off the top of my head. Here, let me go back to sharing screen. We see clips. So yes.
I mean, it looks great. Let's just be upfront. Visually,
Yeah.
all new worlds,
And
new
they
shots,
built
new
actual-
outfits. Like, it looks totally...
They built sets for this.
Yeah.
I did see something on Twitter that allegedly there were no there was no oh my sweet lord,
Volume?
there was no volume, correct. But there were some shots in here that I feel like could have been. I don't know. I'd like to believe that. I would love to believe that. I feel like Star Wars should free itself of the volume a little bit. Like this. That looks cool. This looks like it could be flashback-esque. This looks like Amanda Stenberg's character, but different wardrobe,
Yeah.
seemingly shorter hair. I don't know, appearing younger. I am curious about the timeline because we have I hate to call him Squid Game. We have Squid Game Man. Let me stop it on the right spot. All right. Seemingly, he's like a trainee, the mentor. He's kind of like the Yoda-ish, perhaps.
Yeah.
He trains the pupils, the Padawans.
But Yoda's alive during this time.
This is true. This is
So
true.
would the general audience know that? No, because they don't have any context of
We have
where we're at here. But yeah.
we have Trinity, aka Carrie-Anne Moss, which
Ooh.
she is a queen in the absolute queen in the Matrix films. She's a boss. She literally will slay. Like she is everything. She is goat.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, she's like absolute kick-ass. I'll curse for her. She's a queen. Where is the shot of the Squid Game man with shorter hair? There was a clip of him. They were all looking at something and he had shorter hair. It looked like it could have been a flashback. So we know he duels with Amanda Stenberg. We know that they have a little spat. Here we go. This shot. He's got shorter hair. And Carrie-Anne Moss is there. So I wonder what their dynamic is, if anything. But what this could indicate, why... Unless... Everything with his... No, everything with his long hair is probably what the current present day is. But that piques my curiosity a little bit. I don't know. There's a lot of characters, stacked cast. Like, I think it's definitely going to be more of an ensemble piece. Perhaps, like, not dual storylines necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, you've got 1v8 or whatever right there.
Yeah.
And someone made an interesting point in the chat. How does this work when Phantom Menace comes around and everybody in the Jedi Order is doubting that it was a Sith because the Sith have been extinct for 1,000 years or whatever, or I think Mace Windu says something. Like, they've been under the impression that the Sith have been dead forever. It can't be Darth Maul, the mysterious warrior, can't be a Sith because the Sith are dead. Sith are extinct. They don't exist anymore. So if this happens 100 years before, and we see 8 Jedi fighting someone with the red saber reveal,
maybe they all die.
Yeah, do they all die?
No
but
witnesses.
then, like, they said in the trailer, like, someone is killing Jedi. So, and they show to, I think Lord Fowl's point, that she's going after Jedi and hunting them without using the Force, without the saber. But then we see in that final shot that now she makes the full reveal with the red saber and the Force Hulk smash.
If that's her. I don't think it ever shows her face.
No?
And there was also the one other... Sorry, I'm trying to, like, do too many things. There was that one other clip where she's on that planet, and there was that other person. Yeah, we never see the face. We just see the cloud of... I'll play this for, like, 2 seconds.
No, go back it up. Before she Hulk smashes.
Sabers smash.
Oh, no, we don't.
No face.
Okay. Yeah, we don't.
And in the clips preceding that, she's on this island with this other figure. So I'm curious if there are multiple of them. You know, Acolyte implies...
And maybe it's not Sith related. Maybe that's their workaround. Also, they on Octo?
Yeah, I saw somebody else on Twitter
is this Octo?
mention that.
Is that a sea cow in the background there? No.
I'm not sure.
Is she going to milk the sea cow?
Doesn't Acolyte, though... Oh, sweet Jesus. Doesn't Acolyte imply plural, like, cult-esque?
That's acolytes.
It's
a plural world. It's not like Jedi.
I guess.
But yes, it implies that she's like a member of some dark side cult. And maybe it's not Sith, and that's how they get around it. Or maybe they are, or like the leader of Acolyte cult is in ties with Plagueis. But the Acolytes, our main protagonist here, doesn't know that. And that's how they get away with, oh yes, this is just some rogue Jedi force wielder, but not a true follower of the Sith. So maybe the Sith, Plagueis is trying to make a resurgence with this cult Um, and so the connection is never made between actual Sith and the Acolytes. I mean, that makes sense, and they could get away with that, and that hopefully is where they're going to go.
Yeah.
Because based on where this takes place, roughly 100 years before Phantom Menace, I mean, Plagueis should be out and about, doing stuff. Young Sheev is not too far behind. And so if this is tied to them, which I think is going to have the greatest impact, if this is like the spark plug for how we get to the Phantom Menace and the Sith hindering the sight of the Jedi and the dark side, the cloud of the dark side, spark that'll light the fire, that'll light the bomb, that'll light the gun.
Jeez. Daddy Josh, this is, I believe, 100 years exactly prior to Phantom Menace taking place, right at the tail end of the High Republic era. So yes. Yeah, no, we'll have to see. This is the other thing. If they maybe just like it leads the vagueness of the trailers leads to all of the theorizing and conspiracies leading up beforehand. So I think that would be one benefit of being a little bit specific, a little bit more specific in the trailers, at least to quell. Because here's people already questioning, doubting, fearing that they're going to be retconning Phantom Menace, you know, kind of going against the canon, which I don't think is the case here. I think it's just we haven't seen anything yet. Like, we, you know, I think it's intentionally not meant to confuse us, but we've seen nothing. We've literally seen nothing.
Yep.
We've seen a grain of rice in the grand scheme of the bowl of this show. I don't know why my brain just made that up. Anyway,
grain of rice in the bowl of the show.
I started and then I had to commit. I had to commit to it. Sorry. Sweet goodness. Anyway, yeah, we'll see. Oh yeah, sorry, stupid ads. Apologies. Catch you in the ad, and she's trying to prove to the Sith that she's worthy of being the apprentice. Yeah, we'll see. What's her vendetta?
Maybe it's like a trial thing. Like whoever the actual Sith master is, like killed their apprentice or whatever, and is looking for a replacement. So they decide to hold this cult contest, if you will, to see who can prove themselves as the top acolyte, to take the role of apprentice. Perhaps that's it. Maybe.
Yeah.
And then they all cover it up, so the Jedi never actually know.
Why does Top Acolyte sound like a great reality TV show?
Well, maybe that's what this is. Maybe it's what it is. We don't really know.
I am curious because she's still quite young, and you know, that's another thing that is piquing my interest about this show. You know, the Jedi as we see them, it can be hard to watch a little bit in, you know, Clone Wars and the prequels, knowing that they're kind of very much blinded by their own dogma and whatnot, and it summons their own downfall. So, like, there are times where it's hard. Yes, there are times when it's hard to fully enjoy because you know where it's going versus, you know, 100 years in the past. It's like how much trials and tribulations, you know, what's even these are very different Jedi versus the Jedi as we know them, who become to be the soldiers and generals, you know, commanders at war. That's kind of their whole actual purpose, what they're actually meant to stand for, very much gets blinded and roped up in the warfare. So the Jedi that we're going to see here and their practices and their ways of life and their purposes even it's going to be seemingly so much different. They're going to have different, I imagine they're not in the middle of a civil war. So, you know, I don't think the galaxy is a very different place. And so therefore the purpose of the Jedi and their role in it is going to be very different. And so I don't want to assume that they've never faced necessarily trials or tribulations, but it's not like they're at war like the Jedi as we know them come the prequels. So what could their challenges possibly be, if any, at this timeline? So the first sign of this type of threat that they are going to have to navigate, like, it's really going to be high stakes scenario because I feel like they're very untouched by trouble just yet. I loved that final moment there, all of them being freaked the frick out at just the sight of a red lightsaber. Like, these Jedi are so pure, so untouched by danger, I imagine. So it's really going to just be interesting to see them navigating, like, this is the first kind of like fledgling cracks, I imagine, like in the Jedi Order, other than everything that happened in like during the Old Republic stuff. That
Yeah,
stuff,
and
but
and this is when like some actual dialogue and context will be beneficial, because you're right. One of the intrigues of this is if they that exact moment when they're like,
what the heck?
"What? A red lightsaber? What?" Like we've only heard rumors or like stories at the temple of thousands of years ago, the history. Like if they like, I feel like that's the true intrigue of this show, which arguably the Phantom Menace, like Darth Maul shows up and Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and the Council are like, what? You basically get that then. Um, but like in this case, if it's what, and then they all get slaughtered, and then no one lives to tell the tale, if that's what happens, like that would be a banger of a way to market this show. But if that's the meat of this show,
Can't get reveal all that.
if that's the only thing going for the show, then it's a flop. Call it a flop. Call it a flop now.
No.
If that's the only thing, flop it. Call it
Oh,
a flop.
please. No.
Like
First...
the problem with this is they are withholding the story. But if the story doesn't deliver in terms of like impact, and you withheld it, then it makes it so much easier for people to be let down. Versus if you confidently come out of the gates firing, saying, this is the rough outline of the story, here's the main plot points, and then you have some twists and turns and surprises littered throughout, then it's like, okay, I know where we're going, but there's going to be twists and misdirects and whatnot in a good way throughout the story. But by giving nothing, and you have to project the entire story yourself, like everybody right now is using their imaginations to figure out what's going to happen in the story. And then inevitably it's going to come out, and 90% of what people thought the story was going to be is not going to happen, and they're going to be like, oh, well, this is what I was.
Well, that's the problem when you leave people room to theorize.
Yeah.
And it opens room for disappointment because people get attached to their own ideas and theories. Which is why, it's the whole crux of why you dislike the weekly episode releases, because it gives you a whole 7-day period to come up with what you think is going to transpire next week, only for it to never go down that way. So, and it's not like the alternative is bad. It's not like what actually comes to fruition is worse than what your own brain conceives, but you just get attached to your own
It's not that it's worse, but it's just that
you just get your mind set a certain way. Alice, hello.
Yeah.
I feel like we haven't seen you in so long, girlfriend. Glad that you could join us. I feel like I just haven't seen you in forever. So thanks for sneaking off on your lunch break to hang out. There's got to be a big reason why the Jedi and Phantom Menace had no knowledge of the events of this series, except for Yoda. I am a little bit sick. I think I totally had a sinus infection. I know they usually tell you not to Google your symptoms, but when I Googled, I was like, yep. I got the clarity. I'm actually so much better though. I'm doing a lot better, but yeah, apologies about my voice. It was hard for me to edit my own reaction this morning because I can't stand the sound of it when I'm like this. But at least I can hit deeper octaves. I can get lower. Could be the allergies. Yeah, here's the thing. Because I thought I should be on the upswing by now, but apparently with all the wind here in LA, the Santa Ana winds, it like brings in allergies, which I didn't think were a thing existing here in California, because we have no plants. However, we have plants now. It rained.
Plenty of plants.
It's been raining, so
in California, California's a big state.
Yeah, well, the pollen's blowing in from somewhere.
Yeah. LA is a very small subset, niche portion of California. But anyway, Matthew, that's a good point. There's got to be a big reason why the Jedi and the Phantom Menace had no knowledge of the events of this series. Except Yoda is intriguing. Like, if it's a cover-up, and they say, no, don't worry about it, and Yoda might have an inkling of what is truly at work here, that would be intriguing. That would be very intriguing.
Are we going to see Yoda in this series?
If we don't, they have to. They have to show Yoda. They have to provide context for where we are in some way. There's no easier, more impactful win-win scenario way to do it than have Yoda involved here.
Yeah, that's something I never considered. That said, though, like, yes, I think that it would benefit. That is one piece of familiarity that would garner interest and would be recognizable amongst all fans, and it would just kind of ground and anchor and really make it feel like it is part of the timeline as we know it. Because I think you're making good points. If this doesn't have any necessarily impact on the larger story of Star Wars as we know it, then that might deter some people. I don't know if I agree with that necessarily. Like, I feel like, especially in the state of Star Wars that we have now and where it's just going to continue to grow from here, like, we are going to inevitably, it's happening now. We are expanding beyond the realm of Star Wars as we know it within the Skywalker timeline, the timeline that we've been so strictly just kind of confined to. And so I do think we are at some point, whether it's in Acolyte or series beyond, if they dare to continue venturing into centuries or thousands of years in the future or past from the Skywalker universe, we're inevitably going to have stories that don't necessarily contribute to that. Now, this is just close enough that perhaps it should have some sort of imprint on where the story goes, obviously, especially as a type of prequel-esque to the prequels. You know, I think that would be, I don't know if it's necessary, but I do think it's right there on the cusp where it should have at least a little something that leaves a mark on the larger where the story goes as we know it. Yeah. Either the Sith are able to trick everyone to think the person there is either a dark Jedi, or do they just kill all, right? Yeah, I'm sure there's an answer. I'm sure there's an explanation. Listen, we know that this was a very large writer's room for the series, which I know is something people have been critiquing. But there were lots of people on deck, lots of people involved, some Star Wars fans, some who'd never seen Star Wars, which is a soft spot that is triggering a lot of people. But I don't think a whole entire writer's room of people would let it slide, let something like that, like a loophole like that go. Like, there's got to be an explanation. We're all just being impatient and have to just wait to see it play out.
Yeah. I mean, they tackled the most difficult show that they could have possibly done, which is Kenobi. You have 3 movies of constraints before it, 3 movies of constraints immediately after it, technically 3 other ones, but they're not really related to Vader and Kenobi. So you got 3 movies that have spanned over 40 years on either side, and they decided to tackle this show where we have so many constraints and we know so many things can't happen, and they still had the audacity to go ahead and do it. And I think at least we're both in agreement that they did not really create any, there's no continuity errors. Everything makes sense. Everything that happened in that show makes sense from a timeline continuity perspective. The only thing that arguably doesn't is that he walks away from Anakin again and doesn't kill him. But we've already talked about that plenty of times.
That is open for discussion.
So we don't need to go into that again. But that's the most difficult story that they could have told with the most constraints. But you're right, now they're going before Phantom Menace, so there's really only one movie on the back end that they've buffered 100 years in between that they have to worry about. Everything else, like, it's pretty free of constraints.
This show?
Yeah, the Acolyte.
I would say so. Freak yeah.
And this trailer didn't really take advantage of that, because it just shows all these familiar things. It says, oh, someone's hunting Jedi, and then we see that person ends up having a red lightsaber and the Force. But there's no context or anything that makes it new. I mean, we see plenty of movies and shows and episodes of people hunting Jedi, so that's not a new concept. So I think I'm a little disappointed that there's no real new intrigue, plot line, story thread that they introduced here that we haven't seen before. Yes, as avid Star Wars followers and fans, we know that it's 100 years before. We know it's an entirely new time period. We know that there's going to be a lot of new stuff, and the Jedi are in a different state, and there's no expectation that there's Sith around. Like, we all know that. But just looking in isolation at what they released in the trailer, you can't tell that. Someone pointed out the robes are different. Yeah, we know the robes are different, but like, that's a visual cue. There's no plot line or story thread that indicates that anything groundbreaking is happening here from a story perspective. So, I think story aside, visually it looks great. There's a lot of cool shots. Definitely intrigued. And am I gonna watch the show? Absolutely. You gonna watch the show?
Obviously.
Absolutely. Or is everybody here gonna watch the show?
Most likely.
For sure. Pretty positive that all 26 viewers watching right now are probably gonna watch the show. So,
there is the question of Plagueis, as Richard Taylor brings up. I hope we see Plagueis, but I won't be surprised if we don't. I frankly,
like, just
I don't know if that needs to be tapped into necessarily. I'm intrigued enough by this. I don't know. I'm still really freaking hype, and I've been really excited for this show. You guys know, since they announced it, because it was marketed to be darker, uncharted territory timeline wise. It was just going to be fresh and something really just different and new, which I am thirsting for at this point. So
which
perhaps maybe I have
gives us
rose-colored glasses. Like, yeah, I really liked the trailer a lot. It was enough to satiate me. Why am I talking? I must be hungry. Every analogy I'm making is food related. Sweet Lord. Don't worry, y'all. We're having dinner after this. But so I was very satisfied with the trailer. Now one thing that is, it's easy. We do always complain. I don't want to call it complain, but just acknowledge the fact. It's a fact that Star Wars notoriously keeps their trailers intentionally super vague, usually only shares events that take place within maybe the first 2 to 3 episodes. I think Ahsoka was pushing it because they showed some stuff that happened in the very last episode, the finale of Ahsoka. Yeah. But typically the trailers withhold quite a lot and leave so much left to be discovered, which is the best part when you're watching the show, to be surprised and have no idea what to expect going in, to really just be there for the ride. Discovering along the way. So I'm, that said, I'm excited about everybody. I'm excited about this cast is legendary. This cast is stacked. Stellar
cast.
I am just super excited about these new characters at hand here. And again, something that I didn't think about. Like the Jedi as we know them are so far gone in a way from what the actual code of the Jedi is supposed to be, their actual roles and place in society, and their kind of creed and their, I don't want to say ethics or whatnot, but these are going to be entirely different Jedi. It's going to be a whole new look, a whole new perspective, a whole new lens into, I think somebody called it the golden age. Yes, like the glory days, the good old days. So that's it. I'm intrigued enough by that I'd be curious. I don't want to say cautious, but maybe a little bit trepidatious if they did delve into Plagueis. I don't know. I have enough faith, and interest and curiosity right now with the characters that they've introduced, the characters and conflict at hand, that I don't know if it necessitates that. But I don't know. Matthew Tarpley, it said that in the Plagueis book, he is 100+ years old when he meets Palpatine, and then Palpatine is 17 years old.
Yeah, I think it's too far ahead of time, certainly for Palpatine, unless there's time jump things going on, which would be cool. Like if we see the Acolyte Rue in multiple phases, and maybe when she's young, it's 100 years, but then by the time the story ends, she's older, and then she and Palpatine have a duel to be Plagueis' apprentice, and then Palpatine slays her, and then that's literally cut and scene, show's over. That's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
But I think they're saying that something is stirring. We know that the Sith are stirring at this time period. They're still out there hidden in the shadows. So I think that at this time period, we have Plagueis, and then we have his master, Tenebrous, and then we have Palpatine. Those would be the 3 candidates of Sith mastership in and around where we're at here. And so, if that theme, whatever combination of those 3, and then the combination of on the light side, the masters on the light side, Yoda being at the top, and then you have Sinube and I think the Phantom Menace, some other elders on the Phantom Menace Council by the time we get there.
I think somebody mentioned that Plo Koon species. No, did I read that wrong? I might be reporting the wrong Jedi. I did see mention of other Jedi that their species could potentially live and be around in this timeline. Somebody made the point though about Yoda's aging. Yes, because we know that they age differently than. I mean, as we've seen, Grogu's 50 plus years old and he's still in infancy.
Yoda's gonna have a mullet.
Yeah. Please no.
Yeah, at like 700 to 800 years old, Yoda species have mullets.
Yeah, like what in human years
Guaranteed.
is 700 years in Yoda years?
Yeah, and Yaddle like already has a mullet. Like when you see Yaddle, she's rocking a nice mullet.
If we know that 50 is like 0, so
I mean Yoda's 900 when he dies.
900 divided by.
So the prequels, he's
that's only
like 875. So
what the?
Yeah.
This cannot be right.
What math did you just do? What numbers did you just crunch? It's a ratio. 900 divided by, like, you're trying to put it into human years, how old he would be?
If we know that, like, 50...
Right, so say he dies at 100 years old, and it's 900.
But we know that
so you
50...
do 900 over 100.
50 years old is infant, like 0.
Yeah, so 50...
50
so
divided by
if you're
900.
saying it's the same ratio... No. You can't divide by 0.
We're trying to science this,
You can't do the 50 to 0 because you can't divide by 0.
Just help me.
That's 0.
Help. We know.
Okay. So algebra. Ready? Everybody's having an algebra lesson. I wish I could do a whiteboard.
No.
Can I do a whiteboard on here?
People are going to leave. No, we cannot.
Share?
We cannot. People are going to leave.
So we know it's with context. It's with context of Star Wars.
It's in the name of science.
If we treat it as an equal proportion, meaning the human to Yoda species ratio in Return of the Jedi, he's 900. Let's say if he was a human, he would be 100 when he died. Extreme case. So you would do 900 divided by 100. That's 9. So it's roughly 9, a scale of 9 factor between humans and Yoda species. So if Yoda in this time period is roughly 10, 25, I think it's like 35, 35 years between Phantom Menace and Return of the Jedi. So 135. So 900 minus 135 is 765. So 765 over X equals 900 over 100. So you multiply 765 by 100. Then you got 76,500 over X equals 900. So then you've got to move the X over there. Divide this by 900. 85.
That's how
Yoda would be 85 as a human in this show.
And we know that
765 in Yoda years in that show.
So 85 is human.
85.
But what I'm trying to gauge,
so he can have a mullet.
We know that 50 for him is like 0 for human. So how do we gauge?
You can't do 0. You gotta do like 1.
Well,
do like 1. So we can do it again. So if he's, well, no, you get the same thing. So he goes from 1 to 85. Between this period, he goes from 85 to 100. So he's old. He's old. He's so old. He's 85 as a human in the show. If we treat him as 100 as a human in Return of the Jedi when he dies, when he's 900 Yoda years.
Poor cat looks so confused. I am, y'all. I'm surprised our viewership didn't shoot down to negatives. That my brain. I'm with you there, Visitor Zeta. When I left school, I never thought I'd have to do math again. Yeah, this is why you marry someone who does math. That's what I did.
It's a
so
ratio.
I never have to.
Yeah. So he would be 85 in human years, 765 in Yoda years during the show.
Interesting. Shout out Charlie, you beat me to it. Grogu's roughly 3 years old for a human, but he's 50 years old. I guess that's actually true. He's like walking around, he's chirping, he's making noises. He's more kind of becoming toddler-esque versus like true baby. I guess that's true. Anyway, the point of all that was trying to figure out how old Yoda would be, what he's looking like. So I guess Tom's thesis, do you want to make that this evening's poll? What type will Yoda have a mullet in the Acolyte? All of that math was in the name of science to support his thesis there. How old is he in dog years though? My brain would shut off. My brain cells would spontaneously combust if we did that conversion. No, already.
You would take 85 and multiply it by 7.
Already my brain's...
Or divide by 7. 85 divided by 7. What is that? That's how old he is.
Oh, goodness gracious. Alice is back. Let's go.
85 divided by 7.
He's 12. We won't go for very much longer this evening, folks. However, rest assured, he's 12?
12.
In dog years?
In this show, he would be 12 in dog years.
We will not be going for very much longer. Clearly, my brain has ceased to function after this math lesson here. But also, do not be alarmed. Alex, Zach, and I are going to be streaming earlier than we usually do on Tuesdays. Thankfully, because we are all grandparents who cannot bear to stay awake till midnight anymore. So we're actually going to be streaming in about an hour and a half at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. I know that's still around 10:30 p.m. Eastern for those of you, but at least it's not like 3 a.m. when we are usually streaming. So if you're not, we might be wrapping up Dork Discourse a little bit earlier this evening. But I'll be catching you guys again live over here. You need some food. I do, especially after that. They say that using your brain depletes your energy faster and therefore makes you hungry. So now I'm starved. Do you have a poll in mind for this evening to wrap up our Acolyte celebration? Would you like to kick it off in typical fashion?
Yep. Let's get the poll
position
rolling here. Poll rolling here. Okay, let's make a one that not everybody's gonna answer yes. So let's do this. Will the Acolyte be the Rock?
Oh my gosh.
No. Kidding. We know that Yoda's gonna be the Rock's gonna be Yoda. Does that make sense? No. There we go. Yeah, Yoda was recast from Frank Oz to the Rock, but actual in the flesh, the Rock would be Yoda.
What?
So the poll is who's going to be cast as Yaddle? John Cena, The Undertaker,
what?
Kevin Hart, or...
Oh, I wasn't looking, y'all. This is a good one.
Yes. Rate the Acolyte trailer. 0 to 3, 4 to 6, 7 to 8, 7 to 8, 9 to 10.
What's up, Jay? I love Jay's comments. Hi, Cat. Also, hi, Cat husband. That might be your name tag from now on.
Yeah.
And again, as always, y'all know this is a safe space. Tom voiced his opinions openly. Just because I liked it does not mean I have any expectation or necessitation for y'all to like it to be here. This is an open community. And I do agree. I think the moral of tonight, I think that the trailer could have benefited from just even a little smidgen of something. Because if I were to show this, I'm wondering, I might conduct a little experiment. I might show this to either of my brothers and be like, when do you think this is? You know? Because yes, other than the robes themselves, there's not much other than their shock factor at the sight of a red blade that indicates when this could even take place as well. It's not like even scenic wise it looks so much different from the Star Wars universe as we know it. So I do agree, if I were to show this to somebody who does only necessarily watch the films and whatnot, I do think there might be some discrepancy in their responses as to when they think it takes place in the timeline. Tom just started a podcast breaking down Star Wars through algebra. Yo, maybe we should. Not that should be him. I say we, but I would not be of use.
Mr. Westis, I'm glad that you think that's a good idea.
Exploring the math and science of the Star Wars universe.
I'll take it you enjoy the algebra, so thank you, sir.
That was the most my brain has worked in a long time.
We can do Star Wars calculus.
Sweet Lord, no. I'm cautiously optimistic about the show. That's fair. I think a lot of people are. Again, because it is uncharted. It is new territory, new team of creatives, bunch of new actors, new characters. Everything about this is new, so it's very fair that there might be some caution going in. Just not reluctance per se, not doubt, but just fair skepticism.
Yeah, we're literally all across
the board
the spectrum here. The bulk of the votes, we got 21 votes, which is awesome because there's 30 people watching, 21 votes. So, good widespread collection of data here. So, I mean, 66% of the votes are between 4 and 8. So we're kind of in the middle ground, which I think is kind of where both of us are at, in kind of the middle ground. Like, yeah, we're going to watch it. Visually, it looks awesome, looks stunning. The worlds look great. It's a diverse set of worlds. Nothing we've really seen before. But I think from a story perspective, there's not anything that's like, wow, this is different. This is new. This is something groundbreaking. Like it's looking at it, it's like, okay, yeah, we've seen pretty much all of this stuff before in some way, shape, or form. So I think there is a 0 to 3 vote. There's also 24% 9 to 10. But the bulk of the votes are in the middle ground there-ish somewhere. So I think that's
Patrick Pateman, I think I agree with you the most. I don't think I've seen enough to give it a fair, proper rating. No, that's very valid. So I am curious. You know, here it is. It's already midway through March, pretty much entering the latter half of March. And so this is coming out early June. So we basically just have kind of like 2 months and some change before this happens, before this is coming out. So I'm sure there's plenty of room in there that they might release some more. And you know, with Ahsoka, they were releasing some scenes. I think they did that with Bad Batch as well. They were releasing little snippets, kind of sneak preview of some scenes from the shows. So I wonder if that might become a new pattern. If they do something like that leading up to Acolyte here, which I think could be helpful, you know, depending on what they choose to garner interest. My interest has been garnered. I'm here for the ride. I'm definitely very excited. I also loved, we didn't even acknowledge, let me pull it up really quickly, the poster.
The one they released yesterday?
Yes, of the bloody lightsaber.
Yeah. Yeah, like that's a great point with that poster. I mean, that I think sets a seriously dark tone. Is that blood? Are they trying to sell that as blood?
I'm pretty sure. Okay. I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah.
In an age of light, darkness arises. That to me looks like blood splatters. We watch enough Forensic Files. Yeah. We know blood splatter forensics. Yeah. Such a straight line. It's so satisfying. Sorry. I'm really obsessed with this poster here. I think, you know, definitely you are right. This poster paired with what they released today, maybe there's a little bit, there's not necessarily so much in line with the kind of this sets a mood like watch your back because Shiz is about to hit the fan.
The trailer should have opened up with her cutting someone's throat. Like that's what this.
All right, well, like. This is Disney after all. But yeah,
then don't release a bloody lightsaber poster.
I think there is a little discrepancy in the tone of this versus what we saw today, but it's because they're withholding it, and they probably, you know, I'm always curious to see how dark, if at all, you know, they're willing to take it, they're willing to go. With Star Wars now as we know it, you know, I still would argue that some of the darkest things that we've seen in Star Wars still remain to be like Rogue One, Clone Wars finale, stuff like that. Some of the stuff that they're tapping into with, Bad Batch and the experimentation and whatnot. But this is also like gruesome. Not granted, this is still very much, what's the word I'm looking for? Palatable. I don't want to say it's gruesome, but we got blood, which is also something that doesn't happen when you get a lightsaber wound.
Some good points here. It could be ketchup.
Oh,
could be hot sauce,
my God.
red ink.
No,
it could be.
These are forensics blood splatters. There's blood on the handle.
Yeah.
It's blood, y'all. It's totally. But that is actually, now that I'm thinking about it, the disparity there. A lightsaber wound is historic for not drawing blood. So the fact that there would be a blood
Well, they
trail.
show a lot of clips in the trailer of her using a switchblade.
Yes.
A knife.
She's
So if she's killing Jedi by
she's shanking people.
literally drawing blood, yeah, that's pretty dark.
Yeah.
And I think everybody here's all for it.
That's the other thing too, which leads me to question if she is the same, if she is just one of many acolytes, or what is happening in the cult of the Sith right now. Because yes, you point out she is going around carrying that blade, and that's her choice, her seemingly her choice of weapon. Now, my theory is she's possibly an ex-student, possibly an ex-pupil. Some of you guys were suggesting that the young Padawan who foresees a darker, everyone's like, I see peace, I see love. She says, I see fire.
Is that her?
Some people are theorizing that it could be her, because it does show that young girl, and then it immediately flashes to what could be the future version, Amandla Stenberg as the assassin going around. So it could potentially be, but it doesn't look to... He has the same haircut versus that clip that we saw that he has a much shorter hair. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure. But regardless, if she is potentially an ex-Jedi, an ex-pupil of theirs... I guess it makes sense if she is rejecting the Jedi Order that she wouldn't wield a lightsaber at that point. So that's the only reason I'm hesitant, especially because they don't specifically show her as the one yeeting the entire group of 8 Jedi Masters in that forest sequence. Would she be going around using a blade and then suddenly come out surprise with a lightsaber? No. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Well, there's the grand reveal.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Patrick Bateman, she's the Michael Myers of Star Wars. I mean, yeah, let's do it. Let's roll with that. I mean, their costume design is interesting. With like the purple robes, like there was multiple people in the shots of the Acolyte clan that had like the purple-ish robes.
I see dead people. Sorry.
So it's interesting. Costume design. Clearly, I think they're pitching it as, no, this isn't Sith, but I think for it to make sense, and based on the understanding of the show so far, like the Sith would have to be pulling the strings behind this whole thing for it to really, for the math to add up. We could do that math. That's a whole separate equation.
Before we get too carried away, back with more algebra, I'll end this evening's poll. So interesting. I think this is the most split we've been, but I do think you're right. It boils down to that we still don't know enough yet to make a fair judgment. But if I'm going off of cast, visuals, the little bit of combat that we did see, the choreography, and the conflict at hand, I'm definitely intrigued. So we'll see going forward if there's more. There are any more snippets or teases or trailers in store, perhaps a little scene, a little 1 minute portion of an episode, perhaps going forward, if that might be a new thing. We'll find out. But until then, we're going to call it here for this evening, folks. But don't worry, I'll be back very shortly in an hour and a half with my friends Alex and Zach. We also took like a 2-week hiatus. So I'm excited to get back together with the gang this evening and not be drained for energy at like midnight when we've been doing our Bad Batch pre-games. So thank you guys so much for joining us. I swear I'm going to be catching up on my backlog of all my videos soon. We still have a really busy month, so I can't make too many promises, but the problem is I'm going to try because I still have so many other video ideas that I want to do, other reactions and stuff. So I'm going to try to keep the train moving along, keep it regular over here. Thank you guys so much for being patient as we were away for the past few weeks. But we had a wonderful trip, wonderful time with our families. Still lots in store for us this month. It's still going to be a busy month, busy year, frankly, actually. And June's looking busy. We're going to get Acolyte. We're allegedly getting House of the Dragon in June, which I was not expecting. I would have put money on that being like latter half of August, early September, but we're going to be cranking. We got a lot going on, so stay tuned, folks. There's much in store. But I hope you guys are having a great week. Hope you guys have been having a great month since this is the first time we've been streaming this month. And yeah, we're gonna take off. I never know how to end this. Thank you guys so much for watching. May the force be with you guys. We'll catch you guys same time, same place next Tuesday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Everybody else, sorry, can't do math. But until then, I'll catch you guys over with Zach and Alex for Evil Ewok. But until then, have a great rest of your day, night, morning, evening, until I see you in like an hour. Any final words?
No. Good chat as always. Thanks everybody for hanging out and the back and forth, the discourse, if you will. Always fun. So until the next one.
Bye, friends.